Today, we are taking on a problem that has, well, it's pretty much blindsided the entire academic world. We're talking about the massive instant disruption from generative AI tools like ChatGPT.
It was like an overnight revolution. The moment these tools got out there and were easy to use, you could almost hear the collective gasp from every college campus.
Right, and instructors went into, full-blown crisis mode,
Full-blown panic, really.
and the stakes feel incredibly high here. This isn't just about a student, fudging a few sentences. We're talking about a real structural threat to academic integrity.
Absolutely. The core worry from faculty is twofold. First, you've got students potentially getting grades they didn't really earn, which devalues everyone else's hard work.
And the second part is maybe even more damaging in the long run.
That's the one. The fear that relying on these tools just completely bypasses the development of critical thinking, the ability to synthesize ideas on your own. That's the whole point of higher education.
So in response to this huge technological shift, the reaction was, well, it was predictable. A scramble for a quick fix.
A technological fix for a technological problem, or so they thought.
The rush to adopt AI detection software.
Digital security guard, yeah.
So our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack that moment. We want to understand why that rush to detection software is, frankly, failing.
And it is failing.
We need to analyze who gets hurt when it fails and figure out what the real, human-centered solutions are in this technological arms race that's just getting faster every day.
An arms race is honestly the perfect phrase for it. It's the only way to describe what's happening.
It really is.
You have institutions that are just desperate for a simple answer, a button they can press that says AI or human. Guilty or innocent.
They want certainty.
They demand certainty. But here's the paradox, and it's the one we have to start with. The technology itself can't give them that. All it offers is a statistical probability, a guess, and it's a guess that comes with some devastatingly high error rates.
And this whole panic was driven by how quickly students started using it, right?
Oh, immediately. The scale is just massive. I mean, the latest surveys show that something like 56% of college students say they've used AI for an assignment or an exam.
Wow, more than half.
More than half the student body. So you can see why that created an integrity crisis in every single classroom overnight.
Okay, so here's the fact that I think should make everyone pause.
This is the real kicker.
OpenAI, the company that actually built ChatGPT, the leader in this LLM technology, they made their own detector. And then what happened?
They shut it down. They pulled it pretty quickly, openly admitting that its accuracy was, and I think this is a direct quote, poor.
So if the company that makes the thing can't reliably detect the thing,
how can anyone else? Why are we trusting third-party companies with the academic careers of millions of students based on a technology the creators themselves couldn't get right? It's a fundamental flaw in the whole premise.
that is such a critical starting point. It feels like the entire industry is built on a shaky foundation. And that brings us right to our first section. We're calling it the AI detector reliability crisis, or the search for the failed weapon.
A very apt title.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
The technical claims these companies make versus the grim reality. These detectors, they're not just doing a simple text search, are they?
No, not at all. It's important to remember that the detectors are themselves a form of AI. They're their own deep learning models.
So it's AI hunting AI.
Exactly. They've been trained on millions of documents, some written by humans, some by machines, to learn how to spot the difference. They're looking for a kind of linguistic fingerprint.
Okay, so what makes up that fingerprint? What are they actually looking for?
It really boils down to two key metrics. The first one is a concept called perplexity.
Perplexity, okay.
At its heart, perplexity just measures how predictable a piece of text is, or, how surprising it is to another language model.
How predictable.
Yeah, so think about how ChatGPT writes. It predicts the next most likely word, or token, based on all the words that came before it. It's always choosing the safest, most statistically probable option.
So it's like a super advanced autocorrect.
That's a great way to think about it. And because it's always making that safe choice, the sentences it produces are very smooth, very polished, and very predictable. And AI reading that text finds it very easy to guess what's coming next.
So that gives it a low perplexity score.
Precisely. Low perplexity gets flagged as likely AI generated because it's just too formulaic. It follows the statistical path of least resistance.
Whereas human writing, we're all over the place. We use weird words. We take strange detours in our sentences.
We're chaotic. We're idiosyncratic. We surprise the model. And that gives our writing a naturally higher perplexity score.
Okay, so that's one. What's the other key metric? You said there were two. The second one is burstiness.
This one measures the variation in sentence length and structure. Think about how you talk or write. You're not a machine. You don't use sentences that are all 10 words long.
Right, you mix it up. A long, complicated thought and then a short, punchy sentence.
Exactly. Your writing rhythm is discontinuous. It has peaks and valleys. That's high burstiness.
And the AI.
The AI models tend to be incredibly consistent, almost monotonous. The sentence structures are often very similar. The lengths don't vary that much. It's all very polished and uniform.
Which means low burstiness.
You got it. So the combination of low perplexity and low burstiness is that core fingerprint the detectors are trained to hunt for.
You know, when you explain it like that, it sounds pretty convincing. I mean, in theory, why wouldn't that work?
But that's the thing. Theory is clean. Reality is messy.
Right.
The theory breaks down the second you apply it to the millions of actual essays students submit every single year. The accuracy claims are, to put it mildly, an illusion.
So what are the companies claiming?
Oh, they advertise incredible precision. You see these big, reassuring numbers? Turnitin says 98%. GPTZero claims 99%. They're designed to make a panicked university administrator feel safe.
But the real-world tests.
The numbers are all over the place. When independent researchers actually test these tools, the accuracy swings wildly. I've seen studies where it's as low as 55%.
That's barely better than a coin flip.
It is a coin flip, and even on the high end, it might peak at 97%, but only under perfect lab-like conditions that don't exist in a real classroom.
What about the free tools, the ones a teacher might just quickly use online?
That's where it gets really scary. One big study looked at a bunch of free detectors and found the median accuracy on actual academic writing was just 27.2%.
27%. That's staggering. You're making a decision that could ruin a student's career based on a tool that's wrong almost 3/4 of the time.
It's indefensible. And it shows that the problem isn't just one bad tool, it's the entire approach.
Let's talk about the scale of this, though, because even if we take the companies at their word and say they have a very small error rate, say just 1%, that sounds pretty good, right?
It sounds negligible, but it's not. The scale of the education system makes that 1% a catastrophe.
Okay, let's do the math on that. What does that actually look like?
Let's just take the U.S. college system. You've got, conservatively, about 2.2 million first-year students.
Okay.
And let's say each of them writes, 10 essays a year? That's a low estimate for a lot of majors.
Sure. So that's over 22 million essays just from first-year students.
Right. Now apply that tiny 1% false positive rate. That means 1% of the time, it flags a human paper as AI.
So 1% of 22 million is, wait.
It's over 223,000.
250,000 students. 250,000 students could be falsely accused of cheating every single year for work they actually wrote themselves.
Exactly. That's not a small error. That's a systemic crisis. Think of the administrative chaos, the misconduct hearings, the legal challenges, the psychological toll on those students. It's completely untenable.
It's a system designed to create injustice at a massive scale.
It is. And we have these perfect, almost absurd examples of how broken the logic is. Because it's not about cheating, it's about patterns.
Like the U.S. Constitution example.
The perfect example. Someone ran the U.S. Constitution through a bunch of these detectors. A document written by hand by humans hundreds of years ago. Flagged as highly likely to be AI generated.
You're kidding. Why?
Because the language is too formal. It's too structured, the vocabulary is controlled, the sentence patterns are regular and predictable. It's designed for legal clarity to avoid ambiguity.
So it's too perfect. It has low perplexity and low burstiness.
Exactly. The very qualities of rigorous, formal writing are the same qualities the detectors are programmed to see as suspicious.
So it's basically punishing students for writing well, in a formal academic style.
It can, yes. And the companies know this. Even they are starting to walk back their own certainty. Well, Turnitin, which is one of the biggest players, they admitted publicly that they saw a much higher rate of false positives when the AI score was low, say, under 20%.
So in that gray area, it was wrong a lot.
A lot. So now, if a paper gets a score between 1% and 19%, they display a little asterisk next to the number.
What's the asterisk for?
It's basically a warning label from the company to the teacher that says, hey, this score is unreliable. Don't trust it. Do not use this number alone to make a decision. They are literally telling you their tool doesn't work well in that range.
So the tool is designed to flag clear, precise, well-structured writing. It inverts everything we're supposed to be teaching.
It does. And this huge technical flaw, this punishment of formality, leads us directly into the next and maybe most disturbing part of this.
The ethical minefield.
Exactly.
Because if the algorithm is this flawed, we have to ask the question, who is it harming the most?
And this is where a reliability problem becomes a civil rights problem, because the data is undeniable. These tools have a documented, severe, and frankly alarming bias against one group in particular, non-native English speakers.
Okay, this is a huge claim. What's the evidence for that?
It's not anecdotal, it's from peer-reviewed studies. One group of researchers took 91 essays, all written by humans who were non-native English speakers, and ran them through 7 of the most popular AI detectors.
And the results?
Chilling. Over half of those human-written essays were incorrectly flagged as being made by a machine.
More than half.
And it gets worse. Another test used essays from the TOEFL exam. That's the big English proficiency test for international students applying to U.S. universities.
Right.
One of the detectors they tested flagged 98% of those human-written essays as AI-generated.
98%. It's not a bias, that's a dragnet. You're basically accusing the entire international student body of cheating.
It's a complete failure. And compare that to how it treated essays from native speakers.
What was the difference?
When they tested it on essays from, say, American 8th graders, over 90% were correctly identified as human.
The disparity is just staggering. It's not detecting AI, it's detecting a certain kind of writing style that deviates from a native English norm.
That's precisely what it is, and we need to break down why that happens. You called it the formality trap earlier.
Yes, explain that.
Okay, so if you're learning English for a high-stakes academic environment, what are you taught? You're taught to be incredibly precise with grammar, to use formal structures, to avoid slang or complicated idioms that could be misunderstood.
You're taught to write clean, correct, predictable prose.
You're taught to write with low perplexity and low burstiness. The very training that helps these students succeed in an American university is what makes their writing look like a machine's to a flawed algorithm. The system is perversely punishing them for doing exactly what they were told to do.
And this isn't just about students learning English as a second language, is it? It affects anyone who speaks a different dialect of English.
100%. If you speak Nigerian English or Indian English or any other global variety, you have different cadences, different vocabulary choices. Those patterns can also get mislabeled as AIs simply because they don't match the American-centric data the detector was trained on.
So what does the student do? If you're a non-native speaker, you're now in this impossible position.
It creates this horrible incentive. Students are actually reporting that they feel like they have to dumb down their writing.
Intentionally make it worse.
Intentionally make it messier. Add in some variation, change their formal style, the style they work so hard to master. They're trying to prove their humanity to a machine by degrading their own work.
That's heartbreaking. And the bias doesn't even stop with language, does it?
Not at all. The net is cast much wider. We know from a Common Sense Media report that teachers are already more likely to accuse Black students of AI plagiarism than white students. The human bias gets amplified by the machine.
And then there's the issue of neurodiversity.
A huge issue. Neurodiverse students, students with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, they are at extremely high risk for false positives.
Why is that?
Because to manage the cognitive load of writing, they might rely on specific strategies, using repeated phrases or templates, or adopting a very formal, structured style. The source material called this compositional masking.
Compositional masking. That's a powerful term. Break that down for us.
It means you rely on a set of pre-learned, predictable language patterns to make the act of writing more manageable. It's a brilliant coping mechanism. It ensures clarity and reduces errors.
But to an AI detector,
It looks exactly like low perplexity and low burstiness. The algorithm can't tell the difference between a student managing their disability and a machine repeating a pattern.
and this is made even worse by tools that are supposed to help students, like grammar checkers.
Yes. Think about it. What does a tool like Grammarly or the Microsoft Editor do? It standardizes your text. It cleans it up. It suggests changes to make your writing more grammatically perfect and structurally sound.
It makes it more uniform.
It makes it less bursty. It sands off the rough human edges. So a student who diligently uses these completely legitimate etching tools is actually increasing their risk of being falsely flagged.
So we have a failed technology with demonstrable biases. Let's talk about the consequences. What happens to a student when they are falsely accused? This isn't just a bad grade.
No, it can be life-altering. You're talking about official academic penalties, maybe losing a scholarship. The stress and anxiety are immense, and it creates this profound feeling of betrayal. The institution you trusted has accused you based on a machine's flawed judgment.
And there are huge legal risks for the universities, right?
Massive liabilities. If your tool is proven to discriminate against non-native speakers, you could be looking at a lawsuit under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. If it's harming students with disabilities, you're running into problems with the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA.
It's an ethical minefield.
It is, and the most damning part of all of it is what you called the black box problem, the complete lack of evidence.
Right. With old-school plagiarism, you could show the source. Here's the Wikipedia article you copied.
Exactly, there was verifiable proof. The instructor could look at both texts and make a human judgment.
But with AI detection.
There's nothing, you just get a score, a percentage. 85% likely AI. The algorithm is a secret, a proprietary black box. You can't see why it made that decision. You can't verify it.
So you're asking an instructor to potentially expel a student.
Based on nothing but a probability score from a tool we know is biased and unreliable. There's no due process because there's no evidence to review.
So this whole situation, the unreliable tech, the ethical disaster, the lack of transparency, it's created a whole new battlefield. Which brings us to Section 3, the arms race and the pivot to process.
The game has changed.
The flaws in detection haven't made the problem go away. They've just fueled this escalating conflict. And it's the students who are now building the counterweapons.
That's the core of the arms race. For every measure, there's a countermeasure. Students are smart. They know these detectors are flawed, so now there's this explosion of tools called AI humanizers or bypassers.
So what do these humanizers do?
They're designed to take that clean, polished, AI-generated text and, well, to mess it up.
To make it more human.
Exactly. They'll automatically swap out common words for less common synonyms. They'll vary the sentence structure. Some even intentionally introduce subtle grammatical imperfections. Anything to increase the perplexity and burstiness to fly under the detector's radar.
It's a machine trying to pretend to be a human to fool another machine. The level of sophistication is just amazing.
It's evolving so fast. The detection companies are in a constant state of catch-up. I mean, Turnitin now has a special category it tries to detect called AI-generated text that was AI paraphrased.
So they know students are doing this.
They know students are generating text in one tool and then running it through another tool like Coolbot to mask the fingerprint. It's a cat-and-mouse game.
And students are all online sharing tips on how to win this game.
Oh, absolutely. There are entire communities dedicated to it. And the advice is often so counterintuitive. They're telling each other, make sure you add a few mistakes, or don't let your writing be too clear. It's a really sad state of affairs when the advice for academic success is to write worse.
And this brings us back to that heartbreaking paradox for the non-native writer.
Yes. The student who writes a genuinely polished, formal essay gets flagged. So what are they tempted to do?
They might feel forced to use a humanizer, not to cheat, but just to make their own good writing look less perfect so they don't get falsely accused.
They have to introduce artificiality to prove their authenticity. It's a complete inversion of what we should be rewarding.
So this futility, this endless back and forth, is forcing a big shift in strategy.
A huge pivot, both in the industry and in academia. The realization is sinking in that trying to analyze the final product is a losing game, so the focus is shifting.
From the product.
To the process. The new thinking is, if we can't reliably judge the text itself, let's validate the integrity of how it was created.
That seems like the only way out of this mess. What does that new technology even look like?
It looks like authorship tracking software. GPTZero is a great example. They announced they're pivoting to a new model that doesn't just score the text. It compiles data about the writing process itself.
So it's like a digital forensics tool for an essay.
That's a perfect way to put it. It tracks things like, was a huge block of text pasted in at the last minute? How many editing sessions were there? How much time was the student actively typing and revising? It looks at the whole timeline of creation.
That makes so much more sense. If an essay is due at midnight, and the file history shows it was created at 11:55 p.m. with one giant copy-paste.
That raises a huge red flag about the process, right? Doesn't matter what the perplexity score is. The lack of human engagement is the problem.
It moves the conversation away from this binary AI or not judgment.
And onto effort, engagement, and integrity of the work itself.
And teachers are starting to do this with low-tech methods, too.
Absolutely. The pedagogical solutions are often way more effective. Instructors are now requiring students to write in platforms like Google Docs or Microsoft 365.
Because they automatically track the version history.
Exactly. So if a student is ever questioned, they have proof. They can say, look, here are my 10 drafts from the last 3 weeks. Here's my brainstorming, my outline. The messy human process of writing becomes its own defense against the clean, sterile judgment of the algorithm.
So the big realization is that we have to stop trying to catch the machine at the finish line. We have to watch and encourage and assess the human runner throughout the entire race,
Perfectly said.
which sets us up for our final and most important section. A human-centered approach. What to do instead.
The proactive solutions.
If detection is broken, biased, and a losing game, what should schools and teachers and students be doing right now?
The very first step has to be about setting clear expectations. Institutions and faculty need to get out of this knee-jerk, all-or-nothing ban mindset.
So no more just saying, don't use AI.
Right. Instead, they need to create clear, specific policies for different situations and then actually talk about them in class, explain the why behind the rule. We really need a spectrum of policies.
Okay, let's walk through that spectrum. What's at the most restrictive end?
At the most restrictive end, you have prohibited use. This makes sense for very specific assignments like learning foundational skills, a basic grammar quiz, an in-class essay to test core knowledge.
Where the whole point is for you to do it yourself.
Exactly. You can't outsource learning the basics, and if a student violates this, it should be treated just like any other case of plagiarism under existing school policies.
Okay, what's the next step up from a total ban?
The next level is prior permission required. This means you can use AI, but only for specific pre-approved tasks.
Like what?
Maybe for brainstorming some initial ideas or checking your grammar after you've written the whole draft. But the key is you have to ask the instructor first, get approval, and then cite how you used it. It allows for supervised, targeted use of the tool.
Okay, so now we're moving into policies that actually normalize using AI, but with transparency.
And that brings us to what should probably be the default for many courses: acknowledgement required.
So use is permitted, but you have to cite it.
Yes, and not just cite it, you have to include a little explanation, a process statement about how you use the tool.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. A student might write, I used ChatGPT to help me generate a list of counterarguments to my main thesis, which I then addressed in paragraphs 3 and 4. It makes the use visible and accountable. It rewards honesty.
And at the far end of the spectrum.
Free use allowed. This is for assignments where maybe the final product is all that matters, a big creative project or a complex data analysis. The process isn't the skill being tested, so no formal acknowledgement is needed.
But the key to all of these is the conversation.
The absolute key.
Yeah.
The professor has to explain why they chose that policy for that specific assignment. It turns a rule into a lesson about ethics and professional standards.
Policy is one half of the solution. The other half, the really creative part, is redesigning the assignments themselves. How do you make a prompt that's basically AI-proof?
This is the most powerful tool a teacher has. And the core strategy is simple. Make assignments that require knowledge the AI doesn't have.
How do you do that?
You focus the assignment on course-specific materials, things that were said in that week's lecture, vocabulary that was unique to a class discussion, a data set you provided that isn't on the public internet. If the AI wasn't in the room, it can't write the paper.
So you're forcing students to engage with the actual course content.
And you're pushing them beyond simple summary. You require them to synthesize multiple complex sources, maybe sources that contradict each other, and build a totally new argument. That requires human judgment.
And you mentioned scaffolding before, breaking the big assignment into smaller pieces.
That's a huge part of it. Don't just ask for a final paper. Ask for an annotated bibliography first, then an outline, then a rough draft. Each step is a checkpoint that proves human engagement over time. It makes it almost impossible to just generate the whole thing at the last minute.
Give us a concrete before and after. A generic AI-friendly prompt versus a redesigned AI-resistant one.
Okay, let's take a history class. A generic prompt would be, discuss the causes of the Battle of Gettysburg. ChatGPT can write a perfect A+ essay on that in 10 seconds.
Right. Classic, easy to cheat.
The redesigned AI-resistant prompt would be something like, using the 2 soldiers' letters we analyzed in class on Tuesday, how do their personal accounts challenge the version of the battle presented in the Ken Burns documentary we watched? Be sure to use the term collective memory as we defined it in our lecture.
Wow, okay. That's a world of difference.
See, the AI can't do it. It doesn't have the letters, it wasn't in the lecture, it can't do that specific critical synthesis. It forces the student to think.
And it's not just about the prompts, but the format of the assessment, too.
Yes. Move beyond the standard essay. Require an oral presentation. Hold one-on-one conferences where students have to defend their arguments. Ask them to write a reflection on their learning process. You can even have them critique an AI-generated text in class and identify its flaws.
Ultimately, you make the work more meaningful.
You connect it to the real world. You enhance that intrinsic motivation. If a student cares about the work and sees its value, they're much less likely to want to cheat in the first place.
But all this depends on both faculty and students really understanding this technology.
That is the third pillar, AI literacy. Faculty can't police what they don't understand. They have to get in there and use these tools themselves. See what they're good at, and more importantly, see where they fail.
And we have to teach students the limits.
Explicitly. We have to teach them that AI output can be wrong, it can be biased, it can be completely made up. We call them hallucinations. The student is always responsible for fact-checking and verifying anything they submit.
And to be transparent about it all.
Normalize it. Make that acknowledgement-required policy the standard. If we reduce the stigma, we encourage responsible use instead of driving it underground.
So in the end, the ultimate safeguard here isn't a new piece of software. It's the human in the room.
It has to be. That AI detection score can only ever be a guideline, not a verdict. It's a flag that says, maybe look closer. It is not proof of anything.
So what should an instructor do if they get a high score on a paper?
They need a multiple measures approach. First, use your own professional judgment. Does this writing sound like the student's other work? Is the quality consistent? Then, and this is mandatory, you have a non-accusatory conversation with the student.
That human conversation is the final firewall.
It is. You just ask them about their process. Tell me about how you wrote this paper. What was the hardest part? That conversation will either clear up a false positive in seconds, or it will become a teachable moment about the appropriate way to use these tools. The goal has to be education, not just punishment.
So if we pull back and look at the big picture here, the main takeaway from this deep dive feels crystal clear.
I think so.
The AI detection arms race is a losing battle. It's expensive, it's ethically corrosive, the technology is fundamentally unreliable, and it's systemically biased against the very students we should be supporting. The risk of a false accusation is just too high.
That's it exactly. The quest for academic integrity can't be won with a faulty algorithm. It requires a radical pivot back to what we should have been focused on all along. Human-centered learning, creative teaching, and validating the process, not just policing the product.
It feels like the whole ethical standard has been flipped on its head.
It has. Right now, our best detection tools are proven to penalize excellent, structured, formal writing. So institutions face a choice. Either keep using these tools and risk punishing academic rigor, or pivot to validating the human process of creation.
So what does this all mean for you? Whether you're a student trying to navigate this or an instructor designing your next course, it means the journey matters again. It means making your intellectual work visible.
It means collecting the evidence of your own effort.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. What evidence of your process, your drafts, your notes, your version history, your reflections, what evidence would you gather right now, today, if your very next submission got flagged by one of these flawed detectors? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.